This is Q Racing News, brought to you by the Bank of America Racing Challenge.
Ruidoso Downs opens its 2012 meet this week with an early 10 a.m. post time on Friday to accommodate 25 trials to the $600,000 Grade 1 Ruidoso Futurity. The 10 fastest qualify for the 350-yard June 9th final. And on Saturday, it'll be the trials for the $800,000 Grade 1 Ruidoso Derby. We expect to see All-American Futurity winner AQHA and Rainbow Futurity winner Feature Mr. Bojangles on the track that day. Both of them champions, don't forget. Be sure to catch all the races live and free of charge at QRacingVideo.com. U.S. Border Patrol agents recently seized 14 horses being smuggled from Mexico into Texas, Hudspeth County, south of El Paso. 10 of them tested positive for equine pyroplasmosis, a blood-borne protozoal disease that's relatively common in other countries, but it's not endemic to the United States. EP doesn't affect humans, but it can be fatal to horses. Officials described the horses as thoroughbreds, but they were suspected of being breeding animals rather than race-ready horses. U.S. Department of Agriculture veterinarian Dr. Grant Weiss says the USDA last year intercepted 160 head of illicit equine, mostly horses, and 280 head of cattle along the Rio Grande. The Q Racing Journal has released April's industry numbers, and while figures are up for 2012, they're down for the month of April as compared to last year. The number of races fell about 20%, and purses fell 14.5% rather. Added money was down 16%, and handle was down 18.5%. Now, year-to-date figures show gains in pretty much all categories, including races, purses, and added money. The Q Racing Journal will begin releasing its industry tote board each month. Fastest qualifier Blackberry Check gave owner and breeder Salvador Pimienta his first ever stakes victory at Los Al after the filly won by a head in the Grade 2 $250,000 Kindergarten Futurity. That's jockey Alex Batista. Interesting story about how Pimienta ended up racing the horse. He had purchased her mother on behalf of a client, and as he was loading her into the trailer for delivery, she kicked the gate and badly injured her hocks, so the buyer didn't want her because she was no good for racing anymore. Now Pimienta says Blackberry Check is going to be his next broodmare. Remington Park this week hosted the restricted Grade 3 Jack Brooks Stakes, and a 3-year-old PYC Paint Your Wagon filly would set a new track record at 350 yards. Cruising the Wagon, owned by Terry and Mary Purcell and trained by Jack Brooks, she stopped the clock at 17.060 seconds with Stormy Smith in the irons. She did so as the even money favorite, raising her career earnings to $285,000. The Oregon Racing Commission adopted an amendment this week to limit clenbuterol to 2 picograms per milliliter in blood in quarter horses and thoroughbreds. That's approximately a 30-day withdrawal time. It's a temporary measure that only lasts 180 days, but that's enough to take it through the end of Oregon's racing season. The rule is supported by AQHA, which recommends 1 to 2 picograms in blood and 200 picograms or less in urine. Oregon joins a host of other states and provinces that have adopted similar rules since 2011. Some shakeups in this week's AQHA Racing Horse Player Now Top 10 polls. We just mentioned Blackberry Check's win in the kindergarten. She was rewarded with a number 5 ranking among top 2-year-olds. Here's the top 5 for youngsters and 3 and ups, still led by Cold Cash 1, 2, 3. If you'd like to see the entire poll plus voting results, swing on by AQHARacing.com. Speaking of which, AQHA Racing has launched its new online guide for prospective racehorse owners. Head to AQHA.com/racingowners or just click the link at AQHARacing.com. The guide first walks the reader through the basics of racehorse ownership to give them an idea of what an owner's basic responsibilities and costs are. Then they can download the much more in-depth AQHA Racing New Ownership Guide, which goes into quite a bit of detail about subjects like training and veterinary care, partnerships, a number of other topics. Check it out. If you know anyone who's interested in getting into the business, please tell them about our new site. June 1st nomination deadlines in the Bank of America Racing Challenge are creeping up. 5 divisions at Evergreen Park, everything except the Red Cell Distance, which doesn't actually run in Canada, plus the Aquila Derby at the Hippodrome in Mexico City, and the John Deere Juvie at Ruidoso Downs. Remember, also the Ruidoso Futurity and Derby trials Friday and Saturday, and you can catch them free of charge at QRacingVideo.com. That's it for Q Racing News. I'm Matt Darby in Amarillo, and I'll see you next week.
Q Racing News is brought to you each week by the Bank of America Racing Challenge.